بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Tonight's lesson is on Bulugh maram في أدلة الأحكام. We're in the book of marriage in a subchapter of باب الكفاءة والخيار, compatibility, equality, and choice, an option to marry whom you want, whom you don't want. It's hadith number 859 in the Dar es-Salaam English translation. And in the Tahqiq Shaykh Subhi rahimahullah ta'ala, hadith 945. The author Hafid ibn Hajar rahimahullah ta'ala says, وعن الضحاك بن فيروز الديلمي عن أبيه رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قلت يا رسول الله إني أسلمت وتحتي أختان فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم طلق أيتهما شئت رواه أحمد والأربعة إلا النسائي وصححه ابن حبان والدارقطني والبيهقي وعله البخاري. Narrated Ad-Dhahak bin Fayruz al-Daylami on the authority of his father, radiallahu anhu, I said, O Allah's Messenger, I have accepted Islam and I am married to two sisters. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam then said, divorce whichever of them you wish. This hadith is reported by Ahmad and Al-Arba'ah except An-Nasa'i. Ibn Hibban and Ad-Darqutni and Al-Bayhaqi graded it Sahih, but Bukhari graded it defective. Type. Repeat the hadith inshallah ta'ala. If you're reading the Arabic, read it a second time. If you're reading the English, read it a second time. Repetition is the key to understanding, as we have explained in detail in the 40 hadith on seeking knowledge. The hadith of Anas, whenever the Messenger of Allah ﷺ would speak, he would say it 3 times, and when he went to a people to give them the salams, sallama alayhim thalathan, he would give them the salams 3 times. Repetition is the key to understanding. There are other keys of understanding, other ways of getting it, or if you do understand and you do get it from the beginning, repetition is not going to do anything but make you get it even more. It's going to bring a greater depth to what you're reading or hearing. It's going to allow you to appreciate it more. The message will be burnt in your memory. And you can never ever underestimate the power of repetition. Even though you think you got it, second time, third time, fourth time, you really, really, really get it. Or you may be missing something very important, a small, minute detail. And that is why painters, they give several levels or coatings of paint. And they finish it and gloss, because you never ever know. Let alone the fact painting once is not like painting twice. Huh? Everyone understand this? So you can never ever lose with repetition. So the author, he says, وَعَنَ الضَّحَاكِ بْنِ فَيْرُوزٍ الدَّيْلَمِي عَنْ أَبِيهِ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى عَنْهُ قَالَ قُلْتُ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ إِنِّي أَسْلَمْتُ وَتَحْتِي أُخْتَانِي فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم طلق أيتهما شئت رواه أحمد والأربعة إلا النسائي وصححه ابن حبان والدارقطني والبيهقي وعله البخاري. Narrated Dhahak bin Fayruz al-Daylami on the authority of his father radiallahu anhu, I said, O Allah's Messenger, I have accepted Islam and I am married to 2 sisters. Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam then said, divorce whichever of them you wish. Reported by Ahmad and Al-Arba'ah except An-Nasa'i, Ibn Hibban and Ad-Darqutni. And there's a mistake here in the translation as well. The correct version is going to be reported by Ahmad and Al-Arba'ah except An-Nasa'i, comma, and also from those who reported this hadith and also collected it and graded it as authentic is Ibn Hibban, Ad-Darqutni, and Al-Bayhaqi. And in English it says Ibn Hibban and Daraqutni, period. Then it says Al-Bayhaqi graded it Sahih. It's wrong. But Al-Bukhari graded it defective. So before we get into the meaning of the hadith and the narrator and what we learn from this hadith, let's deal with the takhrij of the hadith. Where is this hadith felt? What hadith collectors reported this narration in their respective books? So it says here, Akhrajahu Ahmed, meaning Imam Ahmed collected this book in the Musnad. Obviously, Imam Ahmed rahimahullah came before Ashabu al-Kutub Sitta. He came before the compilers of the 6 mother books. Imam Ahmed was the sheikh of some of them. Imam Ahmed was above and beyond and before Bukhari, before Muslim, before Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, etc. And his book is older than theirs and larger as well. Very exhaustive work, the Musnad of Imam Ahmed. What is a Musnad? What's the difference between a Musnad and a Sunan and a Jami'? We have explained that in other classes. Everyone understand this? So that's first and foremost. So if you wanted to find this hadith in Musnad Imam Ahmed, how would you look? Bahak ibn Fayruz ad-Daylami. You look 3 times. Tayyib, you're not going to look in Kitab al-Nikkah of Musnad Imam Ahmed. And that's because Imam Ahmed's Musnad is arranged how? The names. هذا هو. So, is Fayruz ad-Daylami, is that the Musnad? You're going to find that Musnad? Or is it going to be Ad-Dahak ibn Fayruz an-Nabihi? Al-Muhim, one of the two for sure. Everyone understands? One of the two for what? For sure. Unless you go to one of the books that have serviced the Musnad of Imam Ahmed, such as the Tartib of Imam Ahmed in the Sharh, Al-Fath al-Rabbani, in which they rearrange the Musnad according to the Abwab. Tasheelan ala al-Bahith. Alright? Then it says, Wal Arba'a, and the 4. Meaning who? If you've read the introduction, then you would know. A student of knowledge is to read the introduction of a book that he's studying. Talibul Ilm is to read the introduction. Any book that you want to read and study, read the introduction. You can't lose by reading the author's speech. Tayyib? Everyone understand this? Read the introduction to the book. So the 4 is going to be Abu Dawud in his Sunan, in the book of Nikkah, or the book of Talaq. Exactly. Good, Khalid. Or the book of divorce. Hadith could be collected in the book of divorce or collected in the book of marriage. And in most cases, it's only going to be in one place because Imam Abu Dawud rahimahullah is not like Imam al-Bukhari. Imam Dawud puts the hadith in most cases just in what? One place. Maybe sometimes here and there, but not like Bukhari. He says Al-Arba', the 4. So Abu Dawud. And then after Abu Dawud is going to be La Tirmidhi and his Jami' and Kitab Nikah or Kitab Talaq. Neither of the two. Imam Tirmidhi doesn't have kutub. He has Abwabu Kada an Rasulullah sallallahu Abwab al-Adahi an Rasulullah sallallahu Abwab al-Tahara an Rasulullah sallallahu Abwab al-Salah. And now that word Abwab takes the place of Kitab. But technically speaking, you're not going to find that in Tirmidhi's book. There is no Kitab al-Salah. There's going to be Abwab al-Salah an Rasulullah sallallahu. You got to know how to use the book, how to get to the book, how to decipher, how to manage and navigate your way around the books. You're only as good, the books are only as good for you as your ability to move through them. Like the streets, driving, shortcut, GPS, side road, this street, that street, shortcuts. It's only as good as how much you know how to get around, how to maneuver, right? After that is going to be who? The 3rd is going to be who? Of the 4 is who? Nope. Another trick question, Ibn Majah. And that's because why? He says, Illa Nasa'i. And Nasa'i will come first, even though Ibn Majah died before Nasa'i. Ibn Majah's death is earlier than some of the other 6 Imams. But Imam Nasa'i's book is more authentic than Ibn Majah's book. So Nasa'i will be number 3, but here is going to be Ibn Majah. in kitab talaq or kitab nikah. Illa Nasa'i, meaning Nasa'i didn't collect it. And that's easier than saying akhraju Abu Dawud wa Tirmidhi wa Ibn Majah. He just said akhraju al-arba'atu illa. Everyone understand this? Moving forward. It then says, why didn't Nasa'i collect this hadith? He didn't hear it, he didn't see it, he didn't think it was good, it was authentic. Al-Muhim, he didn't collect it. It then says, Ibn Hibban. Ibn Hibban collected a hadith where? In his what? In his Sahih. Good answer. Jazakallah khairan. Imam Ibn Hibban of the 4th century, he has a book called At-Taqasimu wal-Anwa'. It is his Sahih. Just like there's Sahih Bukhari, there's what? Sahih Ibn Hibban. He came after Bukhari. He wasn't as great as Bukhari, but he was a great imam in his own respect. There's no doubt about that. And he revolutionized many things in Ilm al-Hadith. Ibn Hibban did. And he has a book that he collected in which he considers these narrations to be all genuine. That book, that work, At-Taqasim al-Anwa' is missing. There's only a few parts that have been printed, that makhtut, the script has been found. It was either burnt, lost, stolen by the Templars, burnt by the Mongols, the Shia, Rafida. Al-Muhim, it was what? Lost. Burnt in a fire, eaten up by worms and bugs, moths. Al-Muhim, it's mafkhud. It's what? It's missing. It's missing. But his book was well known to the ulama who came after him, and he actually did write the book. And the only version that we have now that's kamil, that is full, is Tartib Ibn Hibban. Al-Ihsan fi Tartibi Ibn Hibban, Libni Balabban. Another Persian scholar. He took the original work and made it what? In Tartib, because Ibn Hibban didn't put it in kitab. He put it in Taqasim al-Anwa', al-Amr, al-Nahi, al-Khabar, etc. So Ibn Hibban, he collected his book in his Sahih. But if you're making a takhrij, you're not going to say akhraju, you're going to say akhraju Ibn Hibban fi Sahih kama fi al-Ihsan. Al-Ihsan is up there. طيب, moving forward, we have time, no more time for this. Then it says, what Daraqutni? Daraqutni collected his book where? Or he collected his hadith where? In his Sunan. Daraqutni of the 4th century, also, later Ibn Hibban, 385. He also has a what? A Sunan, which is an extremely beneficial work for fiqh and hadith. He has a Sunan, like Abu Dawud Sunan. And he collected this hadith in his Sunan. Daraqutni Sunan is very different than Abu Dawud's. Very different. Moving forward. Wal Bayhaqi. Bayhaqi lived and died in what century? 5th? Shoot, if you got something in what? Don't hold back, Yahi. Who was Bayhaqi? What century? 4th or 5th? You gotta shoot. You say 4th. For sure. At least he shot. Al-Bayhaqi has what book? He has several sunans. From them is a Sunan al-Kubra, a tremendous work. Tremendous, exhaustive work on comparative fiqh sunnah, fiqh al-hadith. And also Shafi'i madhab. Al-Sunan al-Kubra, al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah. Right? So all of these imams, they collected this hadith. Last but not least, he says, وَعَلَّهُ الْبُخَارِي. But al-Bukhari considered it to be ma'lul. He said the hadith is not authentic. It seems authentic, but it's what? Fihi illa. A'allahu. He declared this hadith to be what? Weak. Very weak. And the weakness isn't something which is outward and apparent, but it's something subtle. In which one of the narrators made a mistake. A big mistake. And it is not authentically traced back to the Prophet ﷺ. One of the conditions for hadith to be sahih is that it cannot be shadh or illa. Cannot be ma'lul. Everyone understand this? So we benefit before we go any further. We see here how the scholars of hadith do what? Differ. No one can come along and say that they all agree, everything's agreement, this is a principle, kada, right? It doesn't work like that. If your sheikh or this brother, this speaker, this translator, he can tell you those lies. Correct? This sheikh can come from this country, this brother can visit from this country, he can tell you those lies. Those shameful, shameless lies. But when you actually are in the books, reading and studying 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago, you see the lies that they tell you aren't what? Everyone understand this? That the ulama of Islam differ greatly. Over what? A few things or what? Many things. And from that is ilm al-hadith. Just like the fuqaha differ, Shafi'i, Hanafi, Maliki, etc. Bukhari, Abu Dawud, Fulan, they also what? Differ. Now, where did Bukhari declare this hadith to be da'if? Where at? In what book? What book? And what book though? Not chapter. What book of his? In his Sahih, or in another work? You say another work, and not in the Sahih, not the Jami'. Okay, what's the other work, or other works? Anybody? It says here in the footnotes, قلت وأخرجه الطبراني في المعجم الكبير وعبد الرزاق في المصنف وابن أبي شيبة في المصنف وحديث حسن. ماذا يفيد هذا الكلام؟ طيب, where did Bukhari talk about this hadith? Anybody have a guess or clue? Use your brains. Think. And al-ilal. طيب, good. What is the name of Bukhari's book on ilal? That's a good guess though. Does Bukhari have a book on ilal? Not saying that he doesn't. Take another guess. It's an answer that's closer and easier than that. We said the hadith is collected by who? Ahmed, Abu Dawud, who else? Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, Ibn Hibban, Daraqutni. But because Tirmidhi was a what? A Bukhari. And he would debate with him in what? In Tirmidhi's book. You learn from one thing what? 10,000 other things. So a good clue, a good place to look for will be what? Tirmidhi's Jami'. And you look for Imam al-Tirmidhi saying, وَسَأَلْتُ مُحَمَّدْ ibn Ismail عن هذا الحديث فقال كذا فقال هو لا شيء فقال ليس له أصل. Tirmidhi would say, I asked Muhammad ibn Ismail about this hadith and he said it is ... Bukhari or Tirmidhi could agree or disagree. So that would be a good place to look, because Tirmidhi was a direct descendant of Bukhari. You understand this? Or maybe Bukhari talks about it in another book, Tarikh al-Kabir, the other kutub, right? You understand how it works here? Everybody understand this? You can't just look for the obvious and ignore the subtle. Clear? طيب. Now, why did Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala declare this hadith to be ma'lul? Why did he say that it's defective? And what's the correct view? Unfortunately, As-San'ani rahimahullah ta'ala here in the book, he doesn't speak about it. And the Muhaqqiq and the Mu'alliq, Sheikh Subhi Halaq, may Allah have mercy upon him, all of the great service that he did for this book and the other books, he doesn't say anything about it as well. He concludes just by saying, وَهُوَ حَدِيثٌ حَسَنٌ. It's a Hasan hadith. As if Bukhari's ta'leel is just, يعني طيب, Allahumma musta'an. So at the end of the day, the hadith is khilaf on its authenticity. Is it authentic or not? We don't want to go any deeper to the rabbit hole that we already what? Went in tonight. Everyone understand this? طيب, moving forward. So that is the takhrij of the hadith in general. And as you can see here clearly, that the scholars of hadith differ on its authenticity. A few points to avoid are those who say, they'll come along and they'll say, why Imam al-Bukhari declared the hadith to be da'if, however, Shaykh al-Albani said it's authentic. And Shaykh al-Albani came after Bukhari, and he came across other narrations and other versions and kada and kada. You can't just take what Bukhari says. Mumkin. But when it comes to hadith being authentic, what do they do with Bukhari's speech? Do they think about it or not? So obviously that's not what? That mizan is inconsistent. Everybody understand this? We can agree on this or not? Bukhari says authentic is in his book what? Khalas. Bukhari says it's weak, da'if. Oh no, we have to see what the other scholars say. Oh, but perhaps there's another tariq, or he's only talking about one isnad. What is this? Everyone understand this? So this goes to show a flaw here in theory with regards to ilm al-hadith. And that is tasheeh and tad'if is what? Bab wahid. Is one way. Authenticating the hadith, declaring it weak, is based off of the same what? Principles. It's not just picking and choosing. Everyone understand this? Let alone the fact that you give a man so much respect here, and you give him no respect or little respect, what? There. That's obviously inconsistent. Everyone understand this? So, Imam or our brother Alameen, mashallah, is a sharp dresser. Very nice dresser, mashallah. Mufti get this jacket, Mufti get this hat, get this stove, that looks good on you, this watch looks good on you, so on and so forth. But the shoes for the Eid, nah, Sheikh, trust me, nah. Is that consistent? I don't have to blindly follow you in those shoes, but to give you no respect in shoes and total absolute taqleed and everything else of clothes, that's going to be what? Agreed or not? It just doesn't work like that. For a man to be so thorough in clothes and have such a horrible, whack, trashy taste in shoes, doesn't what? And the same as ilm al-hadith. So Imam al-Bukhari saying that it is ma'lul has to be given a weight and a concern. And you can't just say, oh, it has other asanid, it's hasan li ghayrihi, oh, fulan came afterwards, hasanahu fulan, lahu shawahid kada, and totally disregard the kalam of what? Bukhari. But in another place, when it comes to tasheeh, is what? Doesn't work like ilm hadith, doesn't work like that, according to the early scholars of hadith. The later scholars, those who were influenced by the fuqaha and ahlul kalam and the usuliyin, different what? Different story. Everyone understand this? Tight. Moving forward. That's enough of that. We don't want anyone saying he has more shubuhat. Poisoning the people with them, disrespecting the scholars, disrespecting Sheikh Al-Albani, so on and so forth. This is what the people say, unfortunately. Let's go forward. So what does this hadith mean, and what do we benefit from this hadith? Mukhtar. Fadda. What do you benefit from this? What fiqh rulings do we get from this hadith? Another hadith. Let's get to the real ilm, the fiqh, the things that the people need in the West. Not the hadith, Fadda Mukhtar. What fiqh rulings do we get from this? Khalid. The permissibility of divorce. Beautiful answer. Simple, easy. Fihi mashru'iyyatu talaq. Fihi jawazu talaq. Fihi ibahatu talaq. That talaq is permissible. Bas. Next faida, Abdur. You cannot be married to two sisters. Good. That was, at least you're trying to be faster on your feet. Okay, you cannot be married to two sisters, what? At the same time. It is impermissible for you to have two blood sisters, what? At the same time. The one is divorced, you remarry, her husband is killed in the war, whatever, what? Different story. But they cannot be co-wives. In Islam, the two sisters cannot be co-wives. Why can't they be co-wives? Jealousy. Extreme jealousy. Good. If there are two women who have nothing to do with each other that are what? At each other's throats with daggers? Khinja, right? They say it, then how about two what? Blood sisters. There's another reason as well. That's a good answer. There's another one. Fadda. Shut up. Allahumma stop. Fadda. It's another reason. That's based off of that first answer. Not only will be jealousy, but it's what? Nah, close though, Envy, similar. Is that two sisters, two wives, or three co-wives, or whatever, falling out, not being friends, whatever, is one thing. The family is going to now tear a tribe or the clan even more now. Everyone understand this? There's another wisdom as well. Try, give it a shot. Listen, the rule here in the class is, it's not a fatwa that you're giving. This is what? Mudarasa. You're studying. Lineage. Something to do with the blood. Children. Blood being too close. Abnormalities, things like this. Cousin is one thing. Actual sister is what? Things like this. Nah? And there are other wisdoms as well that we know of and that we what? Don't know of. Allah is Alim and Hakim. All knowing, all wise. Tayyib. Khair inshallah. What else do we benefit from this? It's more fiqh, fadl, AQ. May they be guided. May your launching be what? Supremely guided. I mean, without any countermeasures.
Well, it's permissibility of asking questions for
the permissibility al-istiftah, the recommendation of seeking a fatwa, asking a question. Tayyib, good. More fiqh benefits. Inni aslamtu. He says, I accepted Islam. Wa tahti ukhtani. And beneath me are Two sisters. Focus on that part of the hadith. Fadl. That the marriages in Jahiliyyah are acknowledged in Islam. The Jahili marriage is what? Acknowledged as long as it doesn't go against our Sharia. Or, some may even say their Sharia. Obviously, the mushriks didn't necessarily have a Sharia, but say it was a Christian. Something that was impermissible in the church. In other words, when that person was a Christian, Umar, that marriage was also what? Invalid. It was invalid according to their aqidah, their sharia, let alone in Islam. But for sure we can say that which is against our sharia. You can't have both in one torpedo bay. It's not going to work. Everyone understand this? Everybody got it or not? So he clearly said that I accepted Islam and I have beneath me, what? Two women, two sisters. The Prophet did not say remarry one of them, remarry both of them. But he said, Talliq ayatuhuma shi'ta. Divorce which of the two you want. In other words, keep one of the two. Understand Zakaria? So this goes to show in Islam is that the Jahiliyyah marriage is acknowledged in Islam as long as it isn't something which is against the law, such as marrying your blood sister or marrying a woman that was in iddah or something like this. Everybody clear on this or not? And the other fawaid in this hadith as well. Faddal.
The preference of choosing the one you want to stay with and divorcing.
The permissibility of choosing. Allah musta'an. May Allah help you with that one. How's that going to work? Allah musta'an. You got to pick the one that cooks better, the one that looks better, the one who has more money, the one who has better lineage, the one who has more knowledge, the one who has more kids, the one who's older. You got to what? And if not, then what? Rock, paper, scissors. Pulling straws. Qur'ah. Hey, when you draw straws, you break them up. What? Pick a feather. Which one is longer? Well, how could the al-muhim? You have to what? You got to pick. And you have the ability to pick. Because he says, ayyatuhuma shitta. Wow, good benefit. There's another faida as well. Hadith says, wa tahti, beneath me. Shows that what? That the man is the what? The man is the what? Is the leader. Qawamun. Clearly. And even in the Arabic language, the ulama, they explain these type of what? Subtleties. So, right, moving forward. As-Sanani rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here about this hadith, وعن الضحاك هو تابعي معروف روى عن أبيه ابن فيروز بفتح الفاء وسكون المثنات التحتية وضم الراء والسكون الواوي وآخره زاي هو أبو عبد الله الديلمي يقال الحميري لنزوله حمير وهو من أبناء فارس من فرس صنعاء كان من وفد على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو الذي قتل العنسي الكذاب الذي ادعى النبوة في سنة 11 وأتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم خبر قتله وهو مريض مرض موته وكان بين ظهوره وقتله 4 أشهر. First and foremost, says the Dhahak Abdul Raqib is not in the Muslim Imam Ahmad necessarily because he's not a Sahabi. Dhahak is a Tabi'i. He's a Tabi'i. He narrated from his father, Fayruz, who was a Sahabi, a Daylami. Okay? A Daylami. And he's also called Al-Himyari. He wasn't from the clan of Himyar, but he actually went there and stayed there for 4 years or more. Nuzul. He visited a place or he got married there and he became a part of that clan. Tayyib. He says here, Fayruz, or he said Ibn Fayruz here, he is actually Persian, of Persian ethnicity, and he was from the Persians that were in Yemen, in Sana'a, the capital. And he was from those who were delegates. They went to the Prophet ﷺ as delegates. And he is the one who killed the false prophet. There were many false prophets. During and after the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and from them was a man whose name was Al-Ansi. He was a great liar, and he killed him in the 11th year of the Hijrah. The Prophet heard about this man being put out of his misery when he was in his final sickness. When the Prophet ﷺ was towards the end of his life, alayhi salatu wasalam. This man claimed prophecy and was executed within 4 months. His claim didn't what? Didn't last too long. It wasn't a year, 4 years, or 40 years. It came up and it what? Quickly. Moving forward. These are fawaid with regards to the history and the background. طيب. الصنعاني رحمه الله تعالى, he says here, بأنه رواه الضحاك عن أبيه ورواه عنه أبو وهب الجيشاني بفتح الجيم وسكون المثنات التحتية والشين المعجمة فنون. قال البخاري لا نعرف سماع بعضهم من بعض. He mentions here, Sanani, he mentions it briefly, why Imam al-Bukhari declared this hadith to be weak. And that was, Dhahak narrated from his father. And from Dhahak was a man whose name was Abu Wahab al-Jayshani. Bukhari said about him, لا نعرف سماع بعضهم من بعض. He says, we do not know that they heard from each other. We don't know that they heard from each other. In other words, the sabab al-i'lal, the reason why al-Bukhari declares the hadith to be weak, is that it's missing a condition, which is what? Ittisal. It's not connected. Even though it outwardly or obviously seems as if they but Bukhari says, La na'rif. And this is a very long discussion with regards to, is it obligatory for the narrators to have met and heard from each other? أو يكتفى بالإمكان أو المعاصرة. The possibility of them meeting up between Bukhari and Muslim and other scholars. That's one issue. And another issue is, in brief, is Imam al-Bukhari's condition that the narrators have to have met and heard from each other at least once. شرط لكتابه الصحيح ولا شرط لصحة الحديث خارج الكتاب. Or is it a condition for a hadith being authentic to him, period? And many people, they say it's only for his book. This clearly shows the opposite. And that is his madhab. For the hadith to be sahih, the narrator had to have met the fellow at least once. And there is no imkaniyah. It's very, very possible that they both lived in the same city at the same time. They were both studying hadith. He was a teacher, he was a student. That's a very long discussion. And many people, they don't have a proper understanding of the kalam of Bukhari fi hadhihi al-mas'ala. Moving forward. Sanani says, وَالْحَدِيثُ دَلِيلٌ عَلَى اعْتِبَارِ أَنْكِحَةِ الْكُفَّارِ وَإِنْ خَالَفَتْ نِكَاحَ الْإِسْلَامِ وأنها لا تخرج المرأة عن الزوج إلا بطلاق بعد الإسلام وأنه يبقى بعد الإسلام بلا تجديد عقد وهذا مذهب مالك وأحمد والشافعي وداود وعند الهدوية والحنفية أنه لا يقر منه إلا ما وافق الإسلام وتأول هذا الحديث بأن المراد بالطلاق الاعتزال وإمساك الأخت الأخرى التي بقيت عنه بعقد جديد ولا يخفى عنه تأويل متعسف وكيف يخاطب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من دخل في الإسلام ولم يعرف الأحكام بمثل هذا وكذلك تأول مثل هذا قوله. As-Sanani, he says, listen carefully, he says this hadith here proves is that the contracts and the marriages of the kuffar are acknowledged by Islam. Like we said, that they're what? Acknowledged. Stop or pause. How do we benefit from this in 2019? We benefit from this tremendously. When we have a great deal of revert Muslims, Christian, 5%er, Hindu, this religion, that religion, they accept Islam, they were married. Do I have to get remarried again? If you say yes, or your wife is unlawful, you say, I'll go back to the Hindu temple. I'll go back to being a Sikh. I'll go back to being a Christian. I'll go back to being agnostic. Everyone understand? This is very important here. Or even you can keep your wife, but you have to divorce her and then you get remarried again. After you make a ghusl, change your name, so on and so forth, get circumcised. Is that the ruling? This is very important here. It's talking about fiqh al-da'wah. Everyone understand this? And this also goes to show is that if you're making da'wah and you're calling people to Islam, you can't just do it off of ignorance. And you can't just do it just off being a speaker. And that's because when people listen to your lecture and your talk, you don't have fiqh. You're just a good speaker, a caller. They're now Muslims. What's going to happen? Immediate, from the moment that they accept Islam, there's now a what? Ahkam. And if you have no knowledge, you're going to do one of the three things. Number one, you're going to tell them, La adri, I don't know. Number two, you're going to say, go to Sheikh Fulan. I've done my job. My job was to bring in the new Muslims, the shahadas, the reverts, and then the fiqh and the technicalities go back to brother and Sheikh Fulan, Dr. Fulan, right? And the third thing is that the da'i is going to do what? Speak without knowledge. How often do you think those three scenarios, what do you think is going to happen the most? Unfortunately. So it's dangerous. And that dawah cannot just be ran by people who just talk and sound good. In the days in which we live, do we need people who talk and sound good? Yes. Do we need inspirational stories? Yes. Do we need this person? And of course we do. But men yuridillahu bihi khayran, what? Yufaqihu fi din. Fiqh is the ultimate. Fiqh is the dominant thing. And that's why some of the ulama held the view about the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, يَأُمُّ الْقَوْمَ أَقْرَأُهُمْ لِكِتَابِ اللَّهِ فَإِنْ كَانُوا فِي الْقِرَاءَةِ سَوَاءً فَأَعْلَمُهُمْ بِالسُّنَّةِ. He who's most able, the ablest, the most learned person of the Quran is to lead the people in the prayer. Some scholars said, يُقَدَّمُ الْفَقِيهُ عَلَى الْقَارِئِ. That the one who has more knowledge of the salah takes precedence over the one who has better recitation and more Quran. As long as the faqih has the basics. As long as the faqih has what? The basics. He knows the Fatiha and other surahs, even if it's only the short surahs. But he knows the rulings of sujood sahw, the ahkam, the fiqh of the salah, more than the qari'. Then they say what? The faqih takes place. You see the point I'm trying to get to? And that is that fiqh is never second to anything. Dawah, qira'ah, hifz, those things can also, they're superior sometimes, and other times they're what? They're totally secondary, and there's nothing like comprehension. Everyone understand this? You memorize and you understand. But if you couldn't memorize, as long as you have that what? Nothing trumps wisdom. Nothing. It's nothing above comprehension. Nothing. Period. Everyone understand this? Even if you didn't memorize it, but you know where to find it in a book, that's better than just memorizing it and having what? No understanding. Everyone understand this? Type. So that's very important. Be mindful of that. Sanani, he says here, the hadith proves, is that when non-Muslims accept Islam, the marriages are acknowledged. Now listen to this. He says, وَإِنْ خَالَفَتْ نِكَاحَ الْإِسْلَامِ. Even if it goes against Islam. Even if it goes against Islam. What's meant by going against Islam? The way of the marriage or the actual woman that he can be married to? Which of the two? The way. And not the actual woman? Or both? The way. What's the proof for that? Is that he had what? Two sisters. And that is against Islam. That's against the way. That's one way. It's a context clue. Moving forward, Sanani, he says, this hadith also proves is that a woman cannot leave her husband except for divorce after Islam. And it's not just immediately what? Null or broken up. But it has to be what? Talaq. After the person becomes a Muslim. Has to be what? Has to be a divorce. And that after Islam, it remains without a renewal of the contract. Third benefit. They're married. You're not sinful. You don't have to divorce her, but nor is there any. You don't have to get married again. Sanani says, and this was the view of Imam Malik. And also the view of Imam Ahmad. And the view of Imam Shafi'i. The view of Imam Dawood al-Zahiri. And other fuqaha as well, such as the Hanafis. Or he says here, that's a comma, supposed to be a comma in the book. It's the view of Imam Malik, Ahmad, Shafi'i, Dawood, and the Hadawi, and others. According to Abu Hanifa and other fuqaha, nothing is acknowledged except that which agrees with Islam. That's the second madhab. Nothing is acknowledged except for that, ma wafaqa al-Islam, that which what? Agrees with Islam. And then they interpret this hadith to mean what's meant by talaq is i'tizal, stay away from her. وَإِمْسَاكُ الْأُخْتُ الْأُخْرَى الَّتِي بَقِيَتْ إِنَّهُ بِعَقْدٍ جَدِيدٍ, and keeping the other sister but with a new contract. Sanani, listen to this, the golden principle here. He says, وَلَا يَخْفَى أَنَّهُ تَأْوِيلٌ مُتَعَسِّفٌ. He says there's clear, there's no doubt that this interpretation is what? Muta'assif. It's a reach. A far, far, far what? Reach. And the golden principle is that there are different understandings and interpretations of the hadith, like we said. But if that interpretation is what? Then it's of what? No use. Even if fulan and fulan what? Say it. Everyone understand the golden rule? And this goes to show us that interpretation of the text is based off of rules and principles. And the first rule and principle is that the interpretation, there has to be a need. And that this hadith is problematic with other hadiths. This hadith is problematic with the other verses. The verse says that you are allowed to eat this. And anything besides that is what? Permissible. And the hadith says you can't have pine cones. So there has to be a what? A need for it. There has to be a what? A hajjah. Secondly, there has to be a proof that it really doesn't mean you can't have the pine cone. It just means don't have the pine such and such. It has to be a dalil. Thirdly, that interpretation has to be based off of the Arabic language, the other principles, the usul, the qawaid. It can't just be how you want it to do, how you want it to be. Everyone understand this? And if it is, then the ta'wil becomes what? Muta'assif is just too much now. You're stretching it out what? You're stretching too much. You're reaching. It's weak. Everyone understand this? And this goes to show that the asl of the hadith is what? Zahir. And nothing takes it away from the zahir unless it's something scientific. Ilmi. Hada huwa. And their need. Everyone understand this? And this is what we try to explain and teach all of these different years. Whatever you're talking about in the deen. Everyone understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? And obviously, not like a foolish person would say, oh, this really can't be real, or this can't be literal because laysa kamithlihi shay. That's the dalil that this is figurative. Allah who said laysa kamithlihi shay, did he forget about that when he said thumma stawa ala arsh? Obviously Allah knows. وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ نَسِيًّا. Your Lord what? هذا هو. لا يضل ربي ولا ينسى. My Lord never errs or makes an act of forgetfulness. Allah knew that, and he also knew this. And he described himself as this, and he also described himself. So no intellectual person, abadan, with a brain, would use that as his dalil that this is totally figurative, it's never literal, it doesn't make sense because laysa kamithlihi shay. It's in the same book. That just doesn't make what? Period. Everyone understand this? So we have to be mindful of this. Now listen to what he says. Sanani says, وَكَيْفَ يُخَاطِبُ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ مَنْ دَخَلَ فِي الْإِسْلَامِ وَلَمْ يَعْرِفِ الْأَحْكَامِ مِثْلِ هَذَا. He says, how could the Prophet speak to someone who just became a Muslim with this type of jargon? It doesn't really mean divorce. It means make her do this type of contract, keep the second one with the new contract. How could the Prophet speak to someone who's a what? A new revert with this type of what? Going to show you that that's not the asl of the texts, of the Arabic language, of the Quran and the Sunnah. It's not the asl. You understand the point, the proof? Is that it's based off of simple, easy, plain, right to the point. Everybody clear on that? So there's a golden principle for the student of knowledge here. And this also teaches us about da'wah as well, while studying fiqh. You're talking to new Muslims, you avoid technicalities. You avoid difficult, sticky topics. You avoid things that are above and beyond their minds to get at that time. A person becomes strong, their Islam becomes confident, they get more, they become more comfortable, they explain things to them. So you don't say, oh, you gotta shave your dreads. The first thing, you gotta cut your dreads, right? Or you gotta get rid of that tattoo on your neck or your hands. You gotta put on a shalwar kameez. No more skinny jeans. Huh? With the rips and the holes in them, right? The Tims, huh? What do they do nowadays? They have the big Tims, right? The tongue is out. The strings are on. Am I making it right? And they have the what? The tight skinny jeans. In the 90s, was it like that, call it? If you had on Tims, you had the what? Come on, okay, all right. Everyone understand this? Gas, farmer, all right? Tell you. It's not just me, right? The big boots, not no little small loafers, some sneakers, but what? The big Tim boots with the what? Tight skinny jeans. Allahumma musta'an. That's the style now. This is your generation, Abdul. Allahumma musta'an. May Allah guide you. Or Allahumma musta'an. Tayyib. Allah surely knows best. This hadith also goes to show is that the man is the one who divorces and not the woman. What? And this hadith also goes to show is that the rulings take precedence over emotions and feelings. The Prophet say, how much do you love both of them? How do you feel? He says, what? Taliq. He said, one of the two has to go. And this hadith also goes to show us is that if a revert Muslim, a new Muslim asks a technical question or a controversial question, it is your job to do what? To answer it with wisdom. You don't try to make it and bring it up, but if it comes to you, you have to what? You do not bend over backwards to please the kuffar, to appease the kuffar. Or a new Muslim, you tell him as it is. This is the truth. Can I smoke weed? I say, can't. It's haram to smoke weed. You get a sin if you do it. Can you be a Muslim? Can you not be a Muslim just because you smoke weed? Accept Islam. Them brothers who have been Muslim all their lives and still what? Smoke weed. So don't let the Prophet lie. Chocolate, huh? Chocolate. طيب وغير ذلك. And the likes. Right? There are all types of things that we do as Muslims, unfortunately. That shouldn't be the thing that stops you from what? Accepting Islam. But if they ask you about it, you have to do what? The horse. So he comes to the masjid, he's smelling like trees, he's tatted up with the skinny jeans. You say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. You understand this? You're a Muslim, Allah is your Lord, your Prophet is Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're your brothers. And take things slowly, easily. Do I have to change my name? Do I have to get circumcised? Do I have to take a ghusl? Do I have to do this? Take off. Easily, what? Slowly. But if he asks you that question, can I smoke weed? You what? You have to tell him. Oh, no, you can't tell him, lie to him. Tell him it's okay. Tell him you do this. Tell him your sins. No, you can't do that. Allah Azza wa Jalla is more merciful to him than you can ever be. And if Allah wants him to be a Muslim, then he'll what? He'll be a Muslim no matter what. No matter how painful it is, you have to get rid of your girlfriend of 20 years. Doesn't matter. Or your solid gold Rolex. Doesn't what? Doesn't matter. Speak the truth, huh? And Allah surely knows best. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa barak. Ala abdi wa rasuli nabina wa imamina Muhammad.